Hey guys, it's Amber. So today let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yeah, so I want to talk about nose contouring. Now, before I start on the actual how-to tutorial, let's talk a little bit about nose contouring. Okay, I'm not trying to hate on anybody, but sometimes I watch nose contouring tutorials and it's like, step 1, have a small nose. Step 2, draw a line down the side of your nose. Sometimes you're like, that's not helping me. And I see a lot of people comment like, what about hooked noses and what about a bump on your nose and all these things. Well, guess what? I actually have a bump on my nose. And I would say that my nose is kind of triangular shaped. It has a bump, not like a huge one, but it does have a fairly noticeable bump. And it also kind of has like a bulbous shape here. So I definitely don't think I fall into the small nose category, which I'm very well aware of. And I'm okay with that. And like whenever people comment or say something like, it doesn't happen very often, but they're like, oh my gosh, you have a big nose. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't notice that for my whole 29 years of being alive. Thanks for that. So what I found is over the years, I've tried contouring and I've tried some of the techniques I've been taught or seen, and it just didn't seem like it really worked for me. And dark brings something back and light brings something forward. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be bringing any of this forward. You know, like I don't want to be highlighting my nose. So I've always been like, well, I just need to contour it with brown. Then your whole nose just turns brown and then you're like, that doesn't look very good. And on top of that, I have rosacea. So my face is red anyway. So it's like, let's make it more red and brown. That sounds like a good idea. So most of the time, I don't do anything. It is what it is, and I'm okay with that. But I've been recently trying to work with different techniques and see if I can find a better way to contour my nose. One thing that I did learn is that you have got to use light. Even when you feel like you don't want to draw anything forward, if you don't add any light when you're contouring, it's just going to turn into brown. It's not going to look good. It's not going to do what you want it to. The other thing I learned for me is I didn't like using shimmery things. A lot of people will just use like their cheek highlighter and they'll run it down the bridge of their nose. And I'm like, I don't really want anything sparkly on my nose. So what I'm using is this is a Cella highlighter pen. It's just a nice cream consistency, a very light concealer, or like a highlighting under eye pen. We'll do the similar thing, but this is just what I'm going to be using today. The next thing I learned is there's nothing you can do for your profile. I'm sorry. I always see people, how can I make my bump look smaller? You know, contouring is all about like a front illusion, but if somebody looks at me like this, it's gonna be the same. And there's nothing I can do about it except for accept the fact that's how it is. I know it sucks. I have it too, but if you've got a larger nose or a bump on your nose, if somebody looks at you from the side, it's just how it is. And I'm always like, well, if someone's gonna judge me on that, then they can suck it, because I don't really care. Anyway, so these are just a few things that I've learned that have helped me in my contouring. Of course, everyone's nose shape is gonna be different, and the things that work for me might not work for you, but I just wanna share a few tips that I've learned and maybe it'll help you. So the first thing I like to do is start off with the dark, and I actually like to do cream and powder just to get a creamy consistency. I feel like if I just use powder, I don't like the effect. Some people like that, some people like cream. Use what you like. So I'm just actually using, this is just like a dark skin toned concealer basically. And I'm going to start off with a little brush. This is actually just like an art brush, but it's a very thin brush like this. And I'm just going to get some product on my brush. And I'm not going to draw a line straight down, because if I draw a line straight down my nose, it's going to make my nose look smaller. But the problem I run into is my nose is already fairly narrow at the top. And so if I make this part look narrower, it's just going to make this part look bigger and more triangle. So I'm actually going to contour on the sides where my bump are and the sides where my more bulbous part is, and then highlight those other areas to make it more balanced. So I'm just going to start and draw a little line right down the side here. And I'm just wanting to create the illusion of that nose being slimmer there instead of having the part that kind of comes out from the bump right there. Okay, next part I'm going to contour is I'm going to take this part where it kind of comes out here, and I'm going to draw that in here and on the other side. And then I'm going to do my nostrils this way. So my nostril comes all the way up to here, so I'm going to cut that in half and draw the shadow down like this. So this way, this part we're combating the bulbous, this part we're combating the triangle, this part we're combating the bridge. And then for the length of the nose, it's not gonna obviously change your profile, but if you do the tip right here, that's what's gonna help make it look a little shorter if you have just a real long nose. So then I actually like to go ahead and just kind of rub this in, and I have a little angled contour brush, and this is just from e.l.f. It's just like this. And I'm just gonna start working this into the skin like this. Just trying to mimic those natural shadows that I don't have, but I wish I did. I feel like when I'm doing contouring, I kind of have to work with the add dark, add light, and keep going with it. So you can see when I don't add any light, my nose just starts looking dark. I just like to blend that in, and then I'm gonna go through with my highlighter. So my highlighter, I am gonna do the bridge of my nose here, and then I'm just gonna kind of make this round shape here, like this was where my tip was. And then I'm gonna highlight my nostrils here and here. And then I'm going to, actually, instead of darkening up into the eyebrow like everybody does, I'm actually gonna lighten right here. Lighten, 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 and expand this area so that it balances here. Now the biggest thing I've learned is, you know, you see all these girls and they're putting this bronzer all the way down. I actually find it is much more helpful to lighten right here and make it blend in with the under eye. So I'll actually take this over under the eye and brighten up that whole area and make this part of my nose, when you're looking at me, it'll just look like it's just part of my cheek. Just throwing a little extra in. So that's where I put everything. So I'm gonna go back, I'll just wipe this brush off a little bit, because what I don't like to do is smear the brown and the white together too much. That's why I like to do it separate. And then I'll just use little tapping motions. You can also use a beauty blender sponge too for this. That's not a problem. So the light is really going to add dimension to the face. And I'll go ahead and add some on my cheeks too, so my face looks complete. Up right through there, then through here. Here's the really important part. You want to make sure that you blend it, but you don't completely take the dark away. That's why I love this highlighter, is it just blends in, and then your nose doesn't look like this glittery ball. It's like, ah! And after I just kind of keep blending, melting that in. Okay, so let me go ahead and add some on my cheeks. I'll use my same brush. I just use this little brush and just buff it into the skin. Okay, so if you like that, you can just stop there. If you do want to set with a little bit of powder, then I just take whatever bronzer of your choice. I'm going to be using this lighter bronzer from Too Faced. I'm not sure exactly, this is the milk chocolate, but it's lighter than the chocolate Soleil. if I just want to emphasize what I've done, just a tiny, tiny bit, just right here on my sides of my bump. Just tiny bit there. I mean, just tiny, 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 little bit here. You don't really need to darken it up too much. And then I'll take my Sonia Kashuk brush here and just kind of carve that cheekbone out a little bit more. And then for the nose, I'll just use like a translucent setting powder. You can use something that's a little bit shimmery if you like that, but I don't prefer it. And set under the eyes. And then I'll just kind of blend that out really nice. Blend that out there. It was like magic, I swear. There's no such thing as magic. Then you can just add your blush of your choice. I'm going to add this e.l.f. Mineral Blush in Wanderlust. This is very pigmented, so just a tap will do. And then on my cheekbones, I will add a little bit of a shimmer highlight. This is just a shimmery eyeshadow, but it works just as well. And that is how I contour my nose and the rest of my face. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.